On behalf of the National Transit Institute, I thank you for participating in the Transit Asset Management Principles for Large Bus Paratransit Systems webinar. The National Transit Institute develops, promotes, and delivers training and education programs for the public transit industry in the United States. For our first presentation, we are pleased to have Rolando Cruz from Long Beach Transit with us today. Rolando Cruz is the Executive Director and Vice President of Maintenance and Facilities for Long Beach Transit, Long Beach, California. Rolando began his career in public transportation in 1995 as the finance manager at Long Beach Transit, and 3 years later went to maintenance to become the fleet maintenance manager. In January 2008, he was named Executive Director and Vice President of Maintenance and Facilities. Rolando is a CPA and holds an MBA and a Bachelor's in Accounting from the University of Texas. He is a graduate of the APTA Leadership Program in 2008. As a result of his background in maintenance and accounting, he has jumped on the wagon with asset management. He participated in the International Transit Studies Program on the state of good repair in 2010 and has been an active member of the FCA Roundtable on STR for the past 4 years. He is now working in the APTA Standards Group with STR and is having fun doing it. And now I will turn the presentation over to Rolando.
Good morning, everyone. I've got a lot of slides, so I'm going to go very fast at the very beginning because they're more introduction slides. And I want to spend some time in the end to talk a little bit about specific things that we are doing to prepare us for transit asset management. First and foremost, a little bit about Long Beach Transit. We serve the greater Long Beach area, about 1 million people, 100 square mile area, 29 million passenger pickups a year. We use only buses primarily for our 32 fixed route services. We have some demand responsive, a few water taxis, and some community special services. This is our service area. We're in the bottom of LA County, and the blue line and the green line from LA Metro connect into our city, and we just serve the surrounding area. The way we do that is a total of 228 active vehicles and 25 contingencies. The big thing about our fleet is it's very diverse. Our propulsion systems, we have 95 diesels, we have gasoline electric hybrids, CNG, and now we're going electric battery dominant buses. So there's a lot of differences that we have to track within the fleet. On the facility side, we have 2 facilities, one on each side of the town, a downtown transit gallery that actually has a transit and visitor information center, including public restrooms, public art galleries, and over 2,000 bus stops that we manage. A lot of those bus stops actually have a lot of different assets. Over 200 of them have real-time information systems, as well as artwork and different types of things. I want to show you a couple quick pictures. I mean, this is our fleet, just so you see, and you can see the differences of the fleet and the different things that we have to look at. And on the facility side, it's not just buildings, it's a lot more. Down on the bottom, you see an actual bench, and that bench is a piece of artwork that it's an actual asset that we have to track and maintain. And that's where a lot of this conversation leads towards. So how do we try to manage our fleet and our facility assets? Number one, big picture asset management is a big concept, and I know a lot of people start talking about strategic planning, and it's important to understand, life cycle and all that. I'm not going to get there. I'm really going to talk about what we do on the basics, what the maintenance team does. So we do have an overall asset management strategy, but that's not the focus of this conversation. One thing I do want to point out is every person, and I believe every transit agency, has some level of asset management already existing. And so one thing I've learned is we're doing almost everything that we believe the federal governments are going to ask in asset management, but it's just a level of maturity as to where we are at as an organization and how do we move forward. So for our fleet, it's very simple. We've always had a fleet plan. We've always know what we actually have. So as a transit agency, we're required to have a fleet plan and list every single asset. We had a great maintenance system. So we've never had problems with our fleet. It's been very simple, and a lot of our efforts have always been spent in that area. So yes, I know everything I have. I know what subcomponents I have. I know the performance of every subcomponent. I have a system that's designed that can even tell me the average brake light that we're getting in rear or front coaches. But where we had a problem was facilities. And in facilities, I couldn't even tell you what I had and all the equipment and when I bought it, and I was very reactive. I just always had money that if something failed, we'd go run in and try to replace it, or we thought something was failing, we'd go in and replace it. So keeping the fleet in mind, we went in and applied for a grant, and we asked FTA, we'd like to create a comprehensive facility plan. And we wanted to make sure that in our plan, we knew the inventory, everything that we have, and its condition. We wanted to make sure that we had an appropriate PM, preventative maintenance plan, a long-term strategy for capital replacement, and decent reporting and KPIs. So we were awarded that grant to move forward, and we started working with a couple companies. The first company we hired was Jorgensen Associates, and bottom line, when we brought them in, they had about 20 people crawling over our entire facility, inventorying everything and comparing it to what I knew we had. So the very first step that we did with facilities is inventory our assets. The second piece, as part of them, is we went and talked to them and asked them to please let us know what they thought the condition of the asset was, and to help us estimate our needs of what we thought we were going to need to do for the future. So we created a condition code, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So they then evaluated the condition of every single asset, presented that to us, and then we then threw that into our database. So that was just the actual 2 physical facilities that we operate out of. We needed to do the same thing for bus stops, but to have them travel up and down every single street, we really didn't think we could afford that. So we created a system, and we hired a company called Vigil to collect that same information. They created an application on a pad that allowed an individual, and we trained our individuals to go out on the street and actually do an inventory of every single stop, doing an assessment. What was the condition? Taking photos, making comments and documents, and immediately we were able to identify some areas that we needed work in. And now that step is being changed so that we can do regular condition assessments of certain stops. So once we collected all this data, we needed to move it forward into our asset management system, our business application. So we do have a system in place. It is called Ellipse, and it's with a company called Ventic. And one of the things that it does well is it maintains a good inventory of every piece of asset, and it allows us to link up the assets and any subcomponents. So all the attributes are stored in there. Not only the common things of what we would call equipment number, location, or nameplate information, but it also has a whole bunch of capabilities for us to put cost, age, the purchase price, replacement value, estimated useful life, and a whole bunch of different dates. So all of that was coded. Now, on top of that, we also wanted to put not only the condition code within the system, but we wanted to also look at the criticality of the system. So if there is an asset, if it failed, how would it impact my organization? So I wanted to look at the risk of it. And so not only did we do the condition code, but we wanted to put a code for every asset group. For example, air conditioning system. How critical? Well, if the air conditioning over the finance office went out, that would be somewhat critical, and we take care of it as soon as we can. But if the air conditioning over the CEO's office went out, it was a little higher in criticality. But in the end, our intent was that every asset, by having a criticality code, we would be able to use that to help us prioritize our work activity, prioritize any assessments, and prioritize using our money. So one of the things that we've implemented and are putting in on our upgrade system is a code that says, when do we think it's going to fail. That was based on our condition code. The severity of its failure, so that would be the impact to our organization, would then come up with a certain critical code. And that asset criticality code helps us sort automatically the outstanding work or the request for capital or operating money. Now, for maintenance, it's definitely very easy because every week as the managers look at the work to be done, they can dump it into Excel, sort it, and then they look at it and then they make decisions as to where would they allocate their resources if they're short. On capital, we also are using now the criticality code to help us sort our needs and do projections and forecasts. So it's only a tool right now, and the system doesn't say you can or can't do. It just kind of gives us direction and allows us to guide it. On the capital planning side, this is something that we have not done yet. We have to wait until our system goes live, but we've set it up right now where we do know the date of service or estimated date for some of the old systems, and when we believe they should be replaced. It's useful life as well as a planned and estimated replacement date. We also have an estimated cost of replacement, both a CPI code and an actual value that we feed into our asset management system. So using that detail, it allows us to forecast our needs over time. So we intend to dump it down in spreadsheets, or whether we're going to create our own system, and we're also evaluating whether we're going to use the FCA's new Term Life program. So this is the next stage of what we're working on at our organization is reporting. I definitely believe that on the facility side, there's a lot of room for improvement that we can do and that we need to do. Number one, I just want to emphasize and separate the difference between performance of our asset versus condition. The condition tells us whether we can actually use it, but the performance is how is it working? Are the assets fit for our purpose? So we have a goal here, and we always tell ourselves we will keep our assets safe and reliable. So some of the performance measures that we use, both financial, non-financial measures to see if we're meeting the objectives of our goal. In other words, a lot of people call them KPIs, or key performance indicators. Each one of these key performance indicators helps us, again, determine are we doing the right thing. The most effective KPIs, in my experience, are dashboards. So our goal is that we're creating a system that it'll be right in our face every morning. So today, some of the experimental ones we have, when I log on, I immediately see, did I need pull-outs? How many work orders do I have outstanding for each one of our different divisions? I'll get into the details of some of the ones that we're working on for our future system. So, some of the most obvious ones are things that we report to our board on a regular basis. We have operational, strategic, and customer satisfaction measures that we give to our board on a quarterly basis. How are we doing on-time performance, passenger per vehicle service hours? This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about very specific, what I would call practical performance indicators. So this is done at a different level. Within the maintenance environment, these are the three areas that we are working on as far as our benchmarks, and they're just examples. So I want to worry and look at, are we optimizing our equipment life? I want to worry about, are we performing our maintenance appropriately? And are we optimizing our energy and resources? So you'll see some of the examples. Facility condition index. Bottom line is saying, are all the assets being replaced as needed? All the critical assets. Do we have the appropriate funding for them? Is the equipment actually available when it's needed? On the maintenance performance, these are some of the ones that we already do, and I believe most agencies already do, and we're going to continue to push these out. So these are standard. You know, the backlog of our maintenance, our planned work is greater than 70%, and so forth. On the optimized energy, this is entirely different for us. We've never done it, and it's entirely new, but now that we've started looking at it and we've started making reports off it, it makes so much sense. So by understanding how much natural gas we are, Right now we've set up a goal for us to reduce it by 3%. So we do monitor the natural gas on a regular basis, and it's automatically updating on a spreadsheet every week. Bottom line is, in my mind, for an agency our size, we've already been doing asset management. I think most maintenance departments are responsible for not only buying, building, and then maintaining and eventually retiring their equipment. So the whole process, what we do, or what I would label whole asset life management, is something that we try to do at Long Beach Transit. Bottom line is, does each agency have a plan for our assets? So fortunately, being a mid-sized agency, we maintain that and do that all within the maintenance department.